Hi, Tony DeWitt here, Missouri appellate attorney and a guy who likes to make the law make sense on YouTube. So today we're going to start a new feature here called Case Law Story Hour. And we're just going to talk about a recent case in Missouri. I'll have more on that in just a moment. Lots of times, cases that are significant don't get reported in the media. And the main reason for that, frankly, is because sometimes I think the media doesn't want you to know what the law is. They want you to know what they think the law ought to be. And this particular case, State v. Straighter, which is a Missouri Supreme Court 2022 decision, is about Missouri's statutory Castle Doctrine. Now, for those of you who know what a Castle Doctrine is, bear with me for a moment while I explain. The Castle Doctrine originates from the old statement that a man's home is his castle. And basically what the Castle Doctrine did when it was adopted through the common law was it removed the necessity to retreat in your own home. In other words, if Brutus kicks in the front door with a machete and decides he's going to rob you, you don't have to retreat back to the back bedroom and bolt the door and hope that the police get there in time. You have the right to terminate that assault at the instant that he breaks through the door. And indeed, that's what's codified in Missouri's statutes that say, essentially, if someone is trying to unlawfully enter a building, a residence, or a vehicle, because they were concerned about carjackings, obviously, then you have a right to presume that they intend great bodily harm and that you can terminate the attack with deadly force. So that is what the case is about. But before we get there, I would also say this case is about a line from a Kenny Rogers song. Some of you may remember, or I may have heard, the song Ruby, and the refrain about Ruby, don't take your love to town. Well, in this case, it's don't take your love to town, because that's where things went off the rails here. Andrea Straighter was in love with somebody named Ward, and Ward owned a pistol, and he also owned a vehicle. When Straighter's car was not functioning particularly well, he allowed her to use the vehicle. He allowed her to use his car. So the first thing that happens is he comes home, comes back over to her house and says, hey, I need you to take me somewhere. So she gets in the car and says, okay, where to? And he gives her directions. And when they get there, it is the home of his former girlfriend named Randell. So Ms. Randell is, for some reason, not happy to see her old boyfriend with his new girlfriend. And so she comes out of the house waving a pistol. Now, I'll go on with the facts here in just a moment, but let's stop right here and talk about something that's important. If you're in a car and you see somebody come out of a house with a gun and they're waving it around, you don't step on the brake. You step on the accelerator. You get out of there as quickly as you can. Because the only fight you are ever guaranteed to win is the one you don't have. And there is absolutely nothing to be gained from getting into fisticuffs with somebody crazy enough to walk out of her house with a gun and say, somebody needs to get shot today. If somebody needs to get shot today, it's probably not you and you need to move along. But Mr. Ward jumped out of her vehicle, and when he jumped out of the vehicle, he left his handgun in the vehicle. So Randell told her sister to put her firearm in the trunk of her car. And when she did that, she then stood there next to the open trunk. At this point, instead of engaging with Ward, who was there for some reason which isn't clear, She ran around to the driver's side of the car and asked Straighter, "Why did you bring him here?" And I'm sure I probably would have felt the same way, but I might have phrased it a little differently. Essentially what she said is, "It's none of your business." And at that point, Randell reached in with her arm and punched Miss Straighter. Well, at that point, she reasonably believed that somebody was trying to get into her car or into the car and harm her. So she retrieved the gun from the passenger seat where Ward had left it and fired one shot, which hit this Randell girl in the belly, in the abdomen. And then when her sister was approaching with the firearm, she fired another shot, which hit her in the foot. So the state of Missouri tried to prosecute these people for assault and armed criminal action. They tried to prosecute Ms. Straighter. As a result of that attempted prosecution, the case went to trial, and she was defended by the public defender. And I would note here that the public defender did a very good job in this case because she asked for something called a jury instruction on the Castle Doctrine. And what that jury instruction would have essentially told the jury is, look, if you find that this woman was invading the car, then you can believe that she intended great bodily harm and that the discharge of the weapon was reasonable. In other words, it was a reasonable use of deadly force against someone who was out to cause her great bodily harm. The court refused to give the instruction for a variety of reasons, but mostly because he thought that when the shot was fired, she was no longer inside the car. But the statute doesn't say that you have to still be inside the car. It says basically that the attack has to still be continuing. And as you noted earlier, the woman's sister, Randell's sister, was approaching the car with her firearm, the same firearm that Randell had waved around and said, "Somebody needs to get shot this morning." So it is fairly reasonable, I think, for Ms. Straighter to believe that her life and her health are in peril when one woman is beating her in the face and another is approaching with a handgun. Unfortunately, the trial judge didn't see it that way, but the Missouri Supreme Court did. What they said was the attack only had to be continuing. They then cited the evidence from the trial transcript where Randell essentially testified that she was continuing to go after Straighter when she was shot. And as a result, the Missouri Supreme Court reversed the conviction and remanded it for a new trial. Now, that doesn't mean that Ms. Straighter gets out of prison. What it means is that Ms. Straighter gets an opportunity to retry her case to a different jury and present that jury instruction that was omitted from the first case. And in that case, she has at least a reasonable chance of avoiding conviction. So, that's the story of State versus Straighter. It's a case that you can find on courts.mo.gov. And what you'll do is you go to the pending decisions and you go to the Supreme Court and you look for the April decisions and you'll find it in there. If you enjoyed this, I'd appreciate it if you'd give me a thumbs up. I would also appreciate it if you haven't already, go over here and subscribe to our channel and touch the notification bell so that you can be notified whenever we release a video here on this channel. In addition to that, if you have any comments, please leave them in the comments down below. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments down below. I think it's really helpful to have dialogue on this particular topic because the law of self-defense is very confusing and it's also very state-specific. Now this time we dealt with a case from Missouri, but next time we're going to look at a case from Mississippi. And I think you'll find that one to be especially interesting. So stay tuned for that in the next couple of days. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.